Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are finally once again going to be talking about some more Back 4 Blood. It has been a long time, a fat minute I would say so myself, since we have made a Back 4 Blood video. And I personally want to make more, but to be honest, Turtle Rock has been very quiet as of late about Back 4 Blood information, and so instead of making a video just to say I made one, I was trying to think of some ideas, and I've been brainstorming for a little bit, and one of the ideas that I wanted to do is I want to talk about just looking forward to the game, and looking forward to what to see in the future for the game, such as the beta. So for this video, what I'm going to be going over, guys, is going to be my wants and desires for the Back 4 Blood beta that will hopefully come out very soon, or at least be announced at the very bare minimum. But yeah, guys, so when it came to the alpha, we had a lot of promising stuff, but now let's talk about what I would like to see from the Back 4 Blood beta. So, for the Back 4 Blood beta, this is one of the very first things that I wanted to address, and I really hope that this gets addressed in some form, because it's very important. In the beta, I would love to not only end up seeing cross-play, but also cross-gen play. And also as well, on top of that, just to make everything easier, I would also like to have the beta be open rather than closed. So with the alpha, it was closed. We had to end up getting codes, and the problem was though with that is that you only had to select a few people. We want to be able to make sure that we have enough things covered for the release of the game, because the beta is obviously going to be the last thing right before the game. And we want to make sure that if the game is broken, we break it before the release. And I want to end up getting as much people on here as possible. I want to have enough people to be able to look for server overloads. I want to be able to have enough people to look for game-breaking glitches. And I want to have enough people to be able to see if the game will even work. I want to really figure these things out. I genuinely want to make sure that the game that I'm buying, especially if I end up paying for the $100 premium edition, that the game will not only work, but it will work well. In fact, not even work well, work great. Now, here's the thing with Back 4 Blood, right, is that obviously Back 4 Blood is a very, very nice looking game. It's very, very profound. It's looking very promising. But we also got to keep in mind is that this thing has to end up running on last-gen consoles. Now, I completely understand that if you guys are going to get upset with me, but hear me out at the very least, please. I completely understand what it's like to not be able to end up affording, let alone finding any of the new platforms or consoles. I completely and utterly understand. I used to, on the Xbox 360, look at all the people on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 and all that stuff, and they would play all these brand new games, and I would end up getting ports of games that looked like they were running for not even my console at the time, but the console before that. I completely understand what it's like to end up having a console and wanting to get the new stuff but can't. I also completely understand what it's like when you in general just have a game that just like gets a bad port, and that's just not even necessarily your fault, it's just the developers porting it over to a third-party company. I completely understand that. And I also completely understand if you can afford these consoles, but you just can't find them because they're being abducted by the porch pirates, or just the pirates online in general, the bots. I completely understand all those things. But here's the thing that is very crucial, guys, is that we can't have the game suffer just for a minority of the group. We need to make sure that not only does this game run on, of course, last gen, but it's not going to get handicapped on next gen. Because here's the thing you got to keep in mind is that this game is going to be running on the following. It has to run on the original Xbox One, the original PlayStation 4. It has to run on also all the in-between versions of these consoles. So it's got to run on the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X, and also the PS4 Slim and the PS4 Pro. And as well, we still have 4 more. We have the new consoles, the Xbox Series X and S, and we've also got the PlayStation 5, and of course we've got the PC version on Steam and also Epic Games. So this is going to have to run on so many different platforms. Now, obviously, because of the way that the games and the way that the hardware is going to work, the last-gen console, the PS4 original and the Xbox One original, are pretty much going to end up being the least popular, or I would consider the least functionally sound versions of the game. Now, there was bugs and glitches in the PC version of the game, like the Steam version that I had for the alpha. And so I would honestly like to expect, and I think it's realistic enough to believe, that the port is probably going to end up being buggy. Now, I would like to believe that hopefully it's made by Turtle Rock and not a third party, because that's just the most fair, and plus also if it's a third party, you would have to go through some hoops, and you might not even get an update, and you might not get a good update if you get any at all. when it comes to the Xbox version, or at least in this case, the last-gen version of the Xbox, and also even the PlayStation, these games need to run functionally sound, and they need to work with the next-gen consoles. Because if we have cross-play, especially cross-gen play, I don't want to have it where my lobbies, like let's say, if I'm playing and I'm playing with a guy, and the person that's hosting is a Xbox One original player, or a PS4 original player, and because the game runs super crappy, they can't host the game without handicapping us. I don't want my game to be running on lower graphics than it's supposed to be. I don't want my game stuttering. I don't want my game having bugs that it's not supposed to have. Same thing even in reverse. I might end up having it where, like, let's say you could even have the next-gen version. You could have the PC version, the best version, supposedly, of the video game, actually is the one that causes problems. Because I've seen times where, such as, platform-specific glitches exist. I've seen that happen before. Sometimes due to things such as frame rounding, and also FPS, and also just the way that you have to port the game over to fit certain inputs. You have to make sure that that specific type of instance works on every single platform. Every action, every in-game event that you do has to work perfectly the exact same way on everything. And so it's very easy for developers to slip up. It can exist. Trust me, I've seen it happen. So what I want to see, ideally, the most for this beta, is make it where every single platform and also every single console, like no matter what the gen, can all play with each other in this beta. I want to see it happen. I want to be able to have a lobby where if I have 4 people in the lobby, where one of them is on the Xbox, one of them is on the PlayStation, and one of them is on the PC, or hell, you can even have it where in 8 players, you can have it where someone's on the next and last gen version of the Xbox and the PlayStation, and you also have got the PC, guys. I would love to see that happen, and if they could all run the game and coexist and no one's getting handicapped, that would be perfect. And like I said, let's have the beta be open, so that way we don't have any issues about having it where we can't cover all grounds, because the more people you have playing the game, the more things that you will be able to find. I intentionally want us to break the game, because I'm not going to pay $100 if the launch of the game is actually going to be worse than the alpha experience that the game had to offer beforehand. Alright, that is honestly a big one for me, and that's why it takes up a majority of the video. But let's talk about the next stuff that I want to talk about for the beta. So, in general, I would love to end up seeing all the following be added. I want to see new characters, I want to see a new map, I want to see new game modes, and I want to see new guns, new cards, and new attachments. I'm kind of chunking these all in one, because I could go over all these individually. But, genuinely, think about it. So, we only had one single map, and technically 3 game modes, but they were really like subcategories within the same game mode aspect. Really all it was just campaign. So technically you had the original version, the slightly 2 harder versions of single player / multiplayer on one map. Okay, that's fine. I completely understand it. It's an alpha. But for the beta, I would love to see more. I would love to see at the very least another single full campaign. I would like to see it alongside the original one. By the way, don't replace it. Don't get rid of the first one. The first one's fine. But keep the first one that we already saw in the alpha, and then on top of that, give us one more full map. Also, on top of that, and all the game mode variants within the single player and the multiplayer, I would also like to see Versus mode come back in the beta, because I want to know how Versus mode is going to work, because I want to be able to test out the infected. I want to know if a Charger, or sorry, I guess you could say the Tall Boy, because I'm interchanging the names here, I want to know if that guy is going to end up being completely overpowered in Versus, just as much as he is in the single player. Because I don't know if you guys remember my video talking about the alpha, but the special infected are goddamn overpowered, especially the Charger of this game, or the Tall Boy, whatever you want to call him. If that is just as OP in the single player as it is in the Versus, we're going to have an issue here. I want to make sure what is overpowered is revealed way earlier than expected. I want to know right away if I'm going to have an issue with any particular infected. I also want to know if there's any glitch spots that they can get into because they are playing as the infected. But also at the same time, I also in general want to end up having fun. I want to be able to have a different variety of things I can do rather than just playing the single player. Because also here's another thing, is that if we play for, like, let's say a weekend again, or if we're playing for even more, hopefully, like let's say a week, I want to be able to exchange modes with my friends. Plus also if you're playing in Versus mode, you have room for more people. Because in normal campaign, you can only end up going up to 4. But if, let's say I want to play with like 5 people, you know, then I have the option. I can go into versus and we can maybe queue with randoms, stuff like that. Because you never know. And plus, also, my subs might want to play with me. Who knows? Maybe if my subs want to play with me, then they all have the choice. Because that way I don't have to rotate people in and out necessarily as much if I have more player slots available. And on top of versus, of course, I would love to see more game modes too. But obviously, I'm understanding that they're probably going to want to end up slowly but surely feeding us, or, you know, giving us bite-sized pieces of the game, because I think that the game is going to primarily have a lot of its content in the first year or two, and then probably start to die off. If anything, they might have some updates here and there, but the first year or two, that's when the majority of their content's going to happen, so they probably intentionally are saving that for the first year or two. I completely get that, but I would love to see versus mode, just because I want to test out the infected and also test out the glitches, and I also just want to be able to play with more than 4 people in my lobby at a given time. Now, also, within the single player, and also in versus, ideally, I would also like to end up testing out more guns, more attachments for the guns. I want to test out the decks, or the card system, and I also want to be able to play with new characters. Now, with Left 4 Dead, characters weren't necessarily an issue for me, per se, because we only had the original 4. But in this game, it looks like that there's going to be, at the very, very least, 8. They're going to be the original 4 that we've seen with Hoffman, Holly, Walker, and then also Evan Angelo. But we've also already got other characters, and one of them being is Mom. Now, with the characters in this game, they have different attributes or different perks that make a certain character have certain aspects that you may like over the other one. Such as how the fact that Hoffman and Walker start off with pistols, where Holly and Evan Angelo start with melee weapons, just as an example. If you, like, let's say, prefer one character over the other, and let's say that you can play as different characters on the original maps. Like, let's say that instead of having a certain crew on certain maps that they're interchangeable, like, let's say the new Mom character can be played on the last map we played. So if you want to, you can have a squad of, like, let's say, Mom, Holly, Walker, and Evan Angelo, and you want to get rid of Hoffman. You might have an instance where, like, let's say somebody ends up wanting to be a Mom main, and somebody's going to get upset with you that you're taking Mom because that's their favorite character, because there is a statistical difference playing as them. Let's say they like playing as Mom because Mom has a certain weapon that the other characters don't have. Or even vice versa. Maybe it's the old characters. Maybe Mom is a bad character, and you might want to have the original 4, and because you're playing Mom, you're picking a throw pick, so people will cuss you out and get pissy at you because you're not playing an ideal character to suit the game mode. Because also, here's another big thing. I really hope this isn't in the beta, for the love of God, but can we get rid of the turns system, or the, like, handicap on how many times that we can play the game? I completely understand playing, like, alternate modes where the difficulty is scaled up, and you only have, like, a couple chances before the whole entire campaign ends, that's fine. But the very base game mode, especially the very first one, there should be unlimited retries for the whole entire campaign, because of these said issues. If we have an issue where, like, let's say that we're going to have to end up picking certain decks, certain characters, certain weapons, and have almost like a meta when we really, really shouldn't for this type of game, and we only have a certain amount of retries, it's going to be very toxic very fast. We need to make sure that every single one of these things is balanced. If not balanced, at least we have the option to be able to end up playing them. I think that the best thing that we can honestly do, and this might be a little bit upsetting for you guys because you might like the idea of being able to play everything on every single possible map or an instance, but hear me out. If we ended up having it where Hoffman, Holly, Walker, and Evan Angelo were the only characters on the original maps, and then, like, let's say that there was a new crew, like Mom and the other 3, and they can only be played on their designated types of maps, and they're not interchangeable, then you don't have to worry about a stacking issue. For example, if the only option for your 4 characters is 4 specific types of people, then really all you're doing is just picking who's getting that specific character, but not just who's in the game in general. Because I don't want to have, I genuinely don't want to have an issue where, because you can play as a variety of different characters or whatever, that one character not being in there makes your team essentially handicapped by playing. I don't want that issue, you know what I mean, guys? So that's going to be also just a couple of other things I want to be able to end up seeing. But I need to make sure that we end up having not only more game modes, more characters, and all that stuff, but I also have got a couple more things left in here that I really want to mention. I personally really want to see more Special Infected. When it comes to the Special Infected, that's one of the most memorable things about the Left 4 Dead series. Otherwise, it's just a normal, generic zombie game. And I definitely think that the Special Infected that we have were very promising. Tallboy is pretty damn overpowered, but I like how he embraces the old Charger. I also do like the fact that he is a little bit stronger, too. It definitely makes him unique. even though he needs to be toned down, of course. I enjoy the Hawker. I like the idea of a Spitter / Hunter hybrid. I also enjoy the fact that they end up bringing the Screamer back in the form of a different one called the, what the hell do you call it? The Snitch? Yeah, I like how that the Screamer, for the first time that the series was ever implemented in the form of the Snitch. That was cool, having an old infected, or technically a new one in the series for the first time in a long time. I also enjoyed the fact that we ended up having a giant, badass tank that's the size of the Great Wall of China. That was cool, having a giant boss. But I want to see not only more special infected, but I want to make sure that the special infected that they add are also good. I would love to have this. I want to have at least one infected represent the witch. I would like to have one infected represent the smoker, and one infected represent the jockey. And also, if ideally, I would like to end up having one more new infected altogether. Because the Screamer or the Snitch was kind of easy just because it was based off of a scrapped concept. But I would love to have a completely new one also too as well. But the reason why is because the only special infected that we have so far is the Ogre, which represents the tank. We have the Hawker, which is basically like the Hunter or the Spitter, depending on how you look at it. Kind of covers both. We've got Tallboy, who basically represents the Charger. We've got the Snitch, who is supposed to be basically the Screamer. And then you've also got the Wretch, which is basically the Boomer. So we're technically missing the Witch equivalent, we're also missing the Smoker equivalent, and also the Jockey equivalent. And I don't necessarily want to end up having it where we have to, like, let's say, pick between having our old infected come back or having new ones. I would like to actually have the old ones plus the new ones, because I don't think that having more is necessarily a bad thing. Sure, it might get a little bit overwhelming at times if you have so many different special infected coming at you at once, but it'll bring a different variety if you space them out. But yeah, I really want to have a Witch equivalent. I want to see, after all these years, what a brand new Witch concept could be like. Because if we end up having the tank become the Ogre, I want to see what the equivalent of the Witch would be to whatever else that Back 4 Blood could come up with. Maybe the Witch, instead of it being the crying, creepy nail, that nails that have like Wolverine claws sitting in the corner and then it basically insta-kill you. What if the Witch is basically like a mutilated corpse where it's like just flesh and skin? And like not even skin. What if it's just like all the skin is like peeling and melting off and looks mummified, and like you can just see like an eyeball falling out, or it's like its one mouth is like gashed open and like it's not crying but it's got like a laugh or like a hyena kind of spaz in between. It's like a hybrid between the Jockey and the Witch, or it's kind of like laughing and crying at the same entire time. And it can maybe even mutter like a word or two. This is going to sound really weird and like a little bit off-putting. You guys might not like this idea. But what if it can make noises or like one word like outburst? So kind of like how the Jockey, like I said, can replicate laughter, or how the Witch basically represents crying. What if this brand new Witch can end up making like noises or certain types of screeching, like one-word sentences that can end up saying like hi or run or something like that? What if it like had like keywords like that where the one part of the brain didn't go away yet, so it can speak in languages? That might sound a little bit far-fetched, but I just honestly think that'd be kind of cool. But can you imagine like the Witch just saying run? Like how creepy that would be. Like she says in a creepy ass voice, just run, and then you just hear the music pick up and she starts chasing you. That'd be like some Michael Myers shit, and that'd be the funniest and also the scariest thing ever. I don't know why, that's just an idea I just thought of now and I actually liked it and saying it out loud. But yeah, we need to end up having not only the old infected come back, but we need to end up having new ones too. Jockey and Smoker, obviously. And I would also love to have a new special infected. I was looking up on the Reddit and I was looking up on Google so many different versions of Left 4 Dead concepts over the years. And there's been a couple fan-made special infected that just look badass and fun, man. I really want to see these be added into the game, to be perfectly honest. And who knows, maybe Back 4 Blood might end up having one of its own ideas that will end up being really, really fun in the long term. Alright, and now for the last thing that I want to end up mentioning for the beta. This is going to end up being story/Easter eggs. So with Left 4 Dead way back in the day, we obviously end up having a pretty solid story. And the way that the story worked in Left 4 Dead is that we kind of put things together as the campaigns went on. We go from Dead Center all the way to the Parish, and we've also got our maps in between, and even the DLC maps. And I want to make sure that the story is told properly. Maybe for the beta, we can end up having it where there's cutscenes. Maybe at the very beginning and maybe at the very end of missions, we end up getting cutscenes. I remember there was a scrapped concept back in Left 4 Dead 1, and I always thought this was the coolest thing. But there would actually be a mechanic where right before you would start a campaign, that Bill would actually be narrating what actually happened in the story before the story would actually begin. So if you were playing on, let's say, No Mercy, Bill would be talking to you, the player, and talk to you as if you were a person in a story form, saying, this happened, blah, 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 I did this, we did that, and explain things almost like a movie. And that is just a cool concept to me, and there was a cinematic for it and everything. I would love that concept idea to be in the Back 4 Blood beta. You know, a cutscene at the beginning and a cutscene at the end. We don't need necessarily ones in between that take time away from the gameplay, but the beginning and the end, that would be amazing. It would honestly be very, very cool to be able to end up getting Left 4 Dead cutscenes, especially with the good graphics. You know, can you imagine just the amount of, like, fun that would be just to be able to end up just seeing all of our characters hack and slash in 4K or even in better graphics? That would be amazing, man. I would love that. And same thing with the Easter eggs, guys. There's gotta be Easter eggs. We need to be able to end up having a story when there's not being content given to us. I enjoy the Left 4 Dead references that I was able to find. I also enjoyed the fact that I was able to explore more of the Back 4 Blood lore by itself with the Easter eggs. Because I want to be able to not only have the story that's given to us, but I also want us to make the story. I enjoy games that end up having it where the story sometimes is vague, and when the developers take note of the community suggestions, they make that a part of the story. I would love it if, like, let's say they gave us some Easter egg where it's like a quote. Like, let's say you have another sticky note, right? And the sticky note, like, let's say that the one kind of, like, indirectly replies to one of the Left 4 Dead quotes. And you're like, is this connected? Is this connected? I wonder if Coach or Bill or whatever met this one guy in this one world, or I wonder if somehow these things are connected. I love that theory and, like, fan making, because that also keeps the community alive at the exact same time, because that's how you get theory videos, that's how you end up getting Easter egg tutorials, that's how you end up getting people on Reddit talking about mysteries that have never been solved, and that keeps your game alive. Yes, I understand people like having things wrapped up in a nice tight bow and having their story be, like, ironclad, but also a little bit of mystery can go a long way. If you have it where the whole entire thing is solved, it's going to be boring, but if you have just little trinkets here and there where the gameplay and also the story is kind of left almost undecided and we kind of have to make it happen on our own, and they slowly will reveal things over the next several years, that can make the game last for so much longer. Still to this day, we don't know what happened to the Left 4 Dead 2 crew after the Parish. And concepts like that has always made people in the community always excited. People have always thought, did the Left 4 Dead 2 characters get killed? Did they escape? Did they have to fight? What happened? That what if keeps people interested. So that is basically, at the end of the day, guys, my thoughts and opinions, and also wants for the beta. I understand this sounds a lot like a almost full release wish list for a beta. But trust me, guys, this is just going to be the beginning. This is not the end, this is the beginning. The game's going to obviously have more maps, more characters, more concepts, hopefully, in the next foreseeable few months. And I really, really hope that come March, we'll end up having a release date, and even hopefully the full beta itself for us to play. But yeah, guys, this is going to be it here for today's video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about my list and what is your list also yourselves. I would love to compare and contrast, and hopefully the Left 4 Dead community and the Back 4 Blood community will be strong enough to be able to end up being a dominant force back on the media. I hope you guys end up enjoying another YouTube video from the most unique YouTuber you guys are ever going to see. Peace out, guys.